Disaster in the Pacific. More than 400 people are confirmed dead and twice that number are missing in Japan. While some died in yesterday's 8.9 magnitude earthquake, many more were killed by the tsunami that followed. There are concerns about a nuclear plant that remains on fire as well, as aftershocks are still being felt today. We have two earthquake experts with us this morning to discuss the disaster in Japan. Julian Gray is the curator and geologist at the Telescience Museum in Cartersville, and Dr. Cham Dallas is a disaster preparedness expert at UGA's College of Public Health. Thank you both so much for coming in this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Julian, let's start with you. I imagine that the images from the 8.9 earthquake on the seismograph is the biggest that you've seen, is it?
Well, this time last year we had the 8.8 magnitude earthquake in Chile that killed 600 people, but this earthquake is something phenomenal. We've in the last 30 hours since the earthquake, we've had almost 200 aftershocks of magnitude 5 or greater. This earthquake, though, it could have been much worse, though, because this earthquake was about, the epicenter was 200 miles off the coast, and if it had been directly under the city of Honshu or any other on land, it would have been a lot worse.
Some of the video that we're seeing is just incredible. Dr. Dallas, you have been, you're a disaster preparedness expert. Have you been in contact with the Japanese authorities at all?
Yes, I work closely with the Japanese authority at other times, and I was on the phone most of the night with the people that I know there. Very concerned, of course, about the nuclear reactor problems that they're having there.
Yeah, we were kind of surprised here in our newsroom that only people from a 6-mile radius from that reactor had been evacuated. Do you feel like that's sufficient?
Well, they started out with 3 miles and then went out to 6 miles. They doubled that perimeter. I would have preferred that they had done that evacuation earlier than that instead of doing them in stages. I was involved in the Chernobyl disaster for 10 years, and they did a similar thing where the people were just moved out in a rush, never to return in many cases there. It's better when you do a more organized evacuation instead of these gradations here, which just instills a lot of fear.
Julian, we often hear about other big earthquakes around the world after a big one like the one in Japan. Is there any way to predict when and where the next ones might happen as other plates beneath the earth start shifting?
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice, Valerie? We know where they're going to strike, and we know that stress is building up in the crust. The crustal plates are moving. We have a great handle. We've been looking at that information for hundreds of years, but there's really no way to predict, unfortunately, when they're going to strike.
I heard a news report, a national news report earlier this morning talking about the West Coast and how, you know, they're overdue for a hurricane based on that 200-year, or I'm sorry, earthquake, and based on that 200-year analysis.
Yeah, that could strike at any time. I mean, we could be seeing this video could have been San Francisco or Los Angeles too, and I think the people in the United States, this could be a wake-up call that, you know, it's like this stuff could happen. It's we know that it can happen, and it would be nice to predict.
Dr. Dallas, how well was Japan prepared, and how well do you think the U.S. is prepared for a similar incident?
Well, the Japanese are generally very well prepared for earthquakes. They have a visceral fear of earthquakes. I've been there many times. They even plan their cities with buildings as fire breaks to prevent mass fires from getting out of city centers generated by earthquakes into the suburbs. That's how much planning they do. I have to say I was a little surprised at this problem in reactor number 1 at Fukushima, where they actually, the backup systems did not function correctly. They had 13 diesel generators that went down, and so now they're supporting the reactor to keep it cooled with batteries now. And I was a little surprised at that.
How much of a bullet did Hawaii dodge with the tsunami? I mean, we saw damage in Hawaii, but it really wasn't as bad as it could have been, right?
Yeah, they only had about a 6-foot wave there, and people were prepared for it. They knew it was coming, and that's one of the great things that, you know, we have the earthquake, and we know how long it's going to take for the wave to get there, and we have a great monitoring system. Unfortunately, that was not the case in Sumatra in 2004. We do not have a monitoring system in the Indian Ocean, and it'd be nice if they put that in place.
Julian, we have had a couple really, really minor earthquakes here in Georgia. Is that something that we're probably going to see again in the future?
No, that's normal. We have earthquakes every 10 or 20 years of magnitude 4 that we might be able to feel if you're sitting still and quiet. You know, but they're generally quite, you know, magnitude 2 and 3, which is just generally very light, mild earthquakes.
Well, thank you both for coming in and shedding some light on the situation in Japan. We look forward to it, and hopefully scientists can learn from each one of these a little bit more about what might happen in the future.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Valerie.
Have a great weekend.